and thank you again for coming along and joining us here on Talking Your Walk. And today I've got a wonderful guy with me. He's had such a varied career. It's absolutely amazing. So Marcus Matthew, thank you very much for joining us. And he'll tell you himself his own story, but after 25 years he worked in public sector, including the police force as well he was in. And then he changed his life, and he'll tell you the reasons for that. But he also became a rapid transformational therapist, and it's something that I hadn't heard of at all until I'd actually met Marcus. So it's an interesting therapy. I'll certainly be interested in hearing more about that. So welcome, and thanks for having a chat with me, Marcus. And can I ask you, first of all, what kind of child were you? What kind of upbringing did you have? Were you born in Shropshire or...?
Well, thank you for having me, June. No, I wasn't born in Shropshire, although I love living in Shropshire. I just live on the other side, on the border, actually, in mid Wales, but I say that it's Shropshire because it might as well be for the sake of a few miles. So I was born in a place, I lived in a place called Duckingfield, which is now the east side of Manchester. When I was born, it was very much Cheshire, but it would be classed as Greater Manchester now, really. Born to parents of working class, so I'm a working class lad. And I now know that shaped a lot of my future, interestingly. But had a pretty good childhood. I can't say there's anything that was bad about it, but it was kind of work hard, play hard. Anybody who's from the north of England knows it's that kind of that background. But very much one of the things that I always felt, I remember, and this came up actually in a dream a couple of days ago. I remember my mum used to go to church, so I used to get forced to go to church, and I always felt very spiritual, but never really quite got religion. It didn't quite fit in. Does that make sense? Yeah. So my dad wasn't kind of religious, but my mom went to church. She still goes to church now. But yeah, so did the usual thing, played football. I found music. My brother was always really the talented one. If we're going to.
Is he younger or older?
No, he's older. My brother's 6 years older, and he actually nearly ended up being a professional footballer. And he played for Preston North End, Bolton, and he actually got injured playing in a reserves game against Liverpool. And that kind of went down, his career went downhill really then from there on in. And I ended up joining the army. Loved learning, but never loved school. And it's very much something that comes up with a lot of my clients, between the age of 0 and 8, when we're at school and things start to change. And I really felt that, but I never knew why. I felt a little bit different. I always felt not different in, I was always accepted. I always had friends, I didn't feel as though I was that, but I always felt as though things weren't available to me, or I couldn't quite get where I needed to get to. And that's certainly going through my teenage years. Really just didn't, there was just something missing. Does that make sense? I know exactly where it all came from, where it was now. The stuff that I've done over the last few years has been crazy. But yeah, I had what I would call a normal, whatever normal is, childhood. Yeah. Great parents, no divorces, no nothing like that. But yeah, I had a great childhood. Yeah.
So why the army?
I think it was probably brought up. My great auntie Eileen, used to look after me. Although I got 2 grandmas, for some reason she didn't have any children, and I guess when I was little, she used to tell me stories of my uncles and that had died in the war. So it was very much the people that I was around when I was little were very much of that war generation, and she was not. I remember when I joined the army, she wasn't happy about it because she'd lost her brothers in the in the Great War. But in something like the Great War in World War II. And yeah, so that always kind of interests me. My dad had been in the army as well. So I guess it's one of those generational things. I mean, my own son now, he's 17, he's just applying to go into the Royal Marines. I've been trying to get him to join the RAF, and he's been wanting to do that all his life, but he's now decided he's going to join the Royal Marines. So we'll see where that goes. But yeah, And I think it's that sense of service. I think that's where it comes from. I think it's an inbuilt sense of service, of protection, of caring. You know, a lot of people think about war as being destructive, and we see a lot of negative stuff about the police. But actually, genuinely, people who go on the front line and are willing to sacrifice their own life are very, very caring people, and they often give more than they take, emotionally, in many cases. But yeah. So that's what led me down to that path, really, I would say.
So how long were you in the army for?
So I was in the army for 10 years, man and boy. And I had great expectations, and it was very much a theme that, in my life, a loop, I suppose, where I would work really, really hard, but never just managed to make it. I was always looking for that thing. That promotion never came up. It didn't matter how much I did anything. I was never good enough. It was never good enough. I didn't fit in with this linear way of doing things. I could always see the goal. They talk about people can just see the thing in front of their face, and that's what they aim for. And one of the things I found later on was a guy called Simon Sinek. I don't know if you know Simon Sinek. And I loved his circle of trust, because we know what we do, we know how we do it, but we never ask why we do things. And that really intrigued me. And before even going into what I do now, the psychology of people, and why do we do that? Why do we act like that, even as a small child? And I guess that all comes back to those, when you are a small child, 3 or 4, isn't it? What do? We always go, why mummy? Why daddy? And what do we do as parents? So just shut up and conform. And we don't realize actually sometimes that can sometimes be the inner child as well. Why? So my journey started with that question: why? Why am I here? What is my purpose? And that started me on a pretty troublesome path. mentally. Yeah, I started to be the rebel.
So you come out the army, and then what happened to you? Where did you go? Where did you travel with the army? Were you in the same place all the time?
Yeah, so I was actually a musician. So so I was a musician, but many people might not know this, but if you're a musician, you're also trained as a medic. And I was really lucky in the fact that I didn't get to see that much conflict. I just happened to be in either the right place or the wrong place at the right time, whichever one you say it. But I did get to travel. I was served in this country. I also served in over in BAOR, been to Canada. So got the opportunity to travel quite widely over Europe and to the Americas, because of the role that I did, and got to meet, I was really lucky. We used to do jobs at the London Palladium, so I got to meet people like the Spice Girls and Five when they were there, and played on stage at the Usher Hall in Edinburgh with Mark Knopfler. So yeah, got to meet a lot of celebrities and got to see a lot of things, playing in, because I was a trumpet player, so playing in big band, in ambassadors parties and all that sort of stuff. So I got to see quite a lot of different types of society, let's say, and it often interested me the way that society is slightly different. So I got to see a lot of humanity, let's say, good and bad, during that time.
I would imagine you would have. So when you come out the army, then where did life take you then?
Yeah, I mean, I left. I would say that although my mental health decline probably started when I was about 14, I think that's when it really kicked in, because when I left, I remember leaving the guard room in Tidworth and really crying. It wasn't something that I wanted to do, but I was kind of forced. It wasn't happening, and I was lucky enough. I went working for Telewest, as it was then. I got a job with Telewest. So I then moved into working in telecoms and then IT, worked with Shropshire Council, worked at Shrewsbury School. So I kind of moved up the kind of management chain. So ended up being a network manager in IT. But I'd always wanted to be a copper since the age of 5. My uncle was a police officer. He was a DS in GMP. I'd got a lot of friends and family. And again, I guess it's that thing of service. I missed that thing of service in the military. So I joined West Mercia Police as a special constable. And that then led to quite a few disappointments joining as a regular, but eventually joined as a regular with British Transport Police. And that's when things really, really started to go downhill. And I won't go into that too much, but what ended up happening was that this feeling of I'm not good enough, I'm different, I don't fit in, and I was wearing a mask, and it was really interesting when I look at it. And I've wrote a book actually. It's on Amazon called Drowning in Anxiety, because it literally was that. It was like drowning, but when you're wearing that uniform, you've got to stand up, you've got to put the mask on, you've got to play the part, whilst inside you are absolutely breaking and just wondering, why do I feel like this? And it got to the stage, 2016, I was working in Chester and I got assaulted. And it was over a ticket issue at the barriers at Chester Station, nothing major. And the years following that ended up me feeling suicidal, and tried to get help, and I didn't get the help that I needed, and ended up having a breakdown. After getting the breakdown, just prior to that, I'd started to become the rebel. I was really kicking out. I was really, my mental health now I know was not good, and it hadn't been recognized. And it was starting to be seen as me being a bit of a troublemaker. And I wasn't. What I was saying is, why are we doing this? Why do I feel like this? Why is this happening? Why can't we do it this way? Why can't, I was asking a lot of questions and people didn't like it. And that started to get me, I guess, a target on me. I guess I was trying to show up as my authentic self and go, no, I'm not conforming to this BS. This isn't right. We're not protecting the public. We're not doing this. We're not doing that. This isn't what I signed up for. Anyway, ended up having a breakdown. After I had the breakdown, found Rapid Transformational Therapy because, if you look at where I come from having that military, very structured background in the police, very, very linear path in regards to right and wrong. And a lot of people tell me now, they go, how did you even do that? That doesn't seem your soul. That doesn't seem who you are. And I was good at my job. But I ended up having the breakdown, and I got offered pills and talking therapy. And I just said, I remember going to Llanfairpwllyn surgery and just saying, no, I want to know why. Why do I feel the way that I do? That led to me sitting at home. I didn't take the pills, by the way. I just sat at home crying a lot and procrastinating on Facebook, as we all do. How many of us do that? Calling the world out, saying how crap it is. And there was Facebook's algorithms are brilliant. It brought me to Mind Valley. So if people don't know what Mind Valley is, it was invented by a guy called Vishen Lakhani, and he brings all of some of the world's best speakers and best therapists and coaches together. And there was a lady on there who, it was a quick 30 seconds, called Marissa Peer, who is now my mentor. I listened to it and I went, this is it. And what was interesting, I listened to the video, and you get the call to action at the end, $600 Quest course. And I went, I haven't got that money. I can't do that. Like. And so, oh, wait a minute, she's an author. That means she writes books. I know that sounds a stupid thing to say. Of course, that's what it means. So I bought her book, and it's called The Ultimate Confidence, and it had a hypnosis download. And interestingly, I'd kind of followed some of Paul McKenna's work. When I was in the army, I'd read one of his books, and we were doing some of the mirroring, where you can get people to do what you want them to do by mirroring their breathing and all the rest of it. So I used to have a bit of fun with that. So obviously subconsciously something had kicked in about hypnosis and all the rest of it. So anyway, read the book, and I hadn't had RTT at that time, but I was using the download on that, and I was doing a bit of yoga because I'd kind of gone, life's enough. I've got to sort this out. And I was sat there in a yoga position, sort of hands down, day 10. This was day 10. And I was listening to this recording, it was going in, and the strangest thing happened. I started to get this light in my head. Everything was black. I was really kind of zen, really kind of quiet and peaceful. I started getting this light in my head, speckles of light, and the light grew. And even to say this now, I think this is ridiculous, but I know it happened. This light grew, and it was a bright, healing energy. It literally was a healing energy. And I'm getting tingles down my back just saying this. And as it came out through my head, I could feel it. This energy just came all over my body, and I felt like the Michelin Man. This energy just started to go outwards. So from my arms and my legs, and you see those pictures of like angels of people ascending into heaven, and it was like that. And this energy went up into my head, shot down in my toes, went up into my head, and everything lifted. It literally went from my feet, and it was as if everything lifted. And I won't swear, but what happened is after that, I kind of stopped, and it was like, oh my God. And everything, even every anxiety, every pain just seemed to lift and disappear. And that wasn't even with somebody, that was just with me. Anyway, I was like, I have to find out more about this. And I always said, if I can get that to everybody in the planet, I'll take every drug dealer off the planet, because it was that powerful. Anyway, ended up going down to see Marissa down in London. And interestingly, again, we ordered the tickets and they'd run out. And I tweeted Marissa directly and said, oh, you've run out of tickets. She said, my PA will sort it out. I'd been tweeting on Twitter, ended up going down to London. And one of the people there had said to me, oh, you're Leaders Ask Why, which is my Twitter's name. And she turned around and spoke to everybody. My wife's going, how do they know who you are? Marissa wants to speak to you. Anyway, cut a long story short, ended up speaking to Marissa for about 2 hours after the event. And she said, you've got to come and train with me. And I was like, I'm in the police. I can't do that. I can't. Like. Anyway, a couple of weeks later, I get a phone call from Kirsten, and she said, Marissa still wants you to come and train with her. And I went, listen, I can't afford it. I think it's like $7,000, up 6-7 grand to go and train with her. So it's free. So at first I was going to go, oh, I can't do that. I can't do that. But I went, are you stupid? Are you stupid? So took that in, did the training, started the online training, went and did the live training. Yeah.
You're saying you can't do that. Do you know why you felt you couldn't do that?
Yeah, just lack. It was a lack. I mean, looking at it now, it was, I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy of this. I'm not good enough to have this. Why should you do this? It's great that you've done this for me. But it was like that split. It was like the shadow. It was like the ego coming in. It was fear, actually. A lot of it was fear around, if I do this, because when we look at a lot of our public sector, everything's about if it's not under nice guidelines, or if you do this, it's very, people don't understand when there's a lot of criticism over the police. I often said this when I was in, I would much rather face somebody with a knife trying to kill me than go and have a meeting with HR. Because, and it's the same in the NHS, it's the same in a lot of the public sector, that there is such a fear culture that people can't make mistakes. Because if they make mistakes, they'll be held to account, and the public, you can see it now, the fear where it is at the moment. And I'm not criticizing anybody around that. It is just a cultural thing. It's the way that we are. And I think that is starting to change, but I still think that they've not got it yet. They've not got it. Anyway, so I ended up going back to work. I was told that I'd be off work for 6 to 12 months. I was back in work within 2 months after having RTT. So what happened then was I got disciplined. I got put on an unsatisfactory performance plan for having a breakdown. And then what happened is I was going to appeal it under the Equalities Act, and the Federation said, no, don't do that because you're going for promotion and it'll mess it up. You know what it's going to be like. And it was all a little bit sinister. Anyway, I thought, you know what? I've got RTT now. I'm going to do that on the side. So put that in as a business on the side and just started to learn, and was really enjoying that. So it came to October 2019. And I'd spoken to a chief inspector that I knew. I said, Jamie, I need to, to help to get me through my sergeant's exam so I can really take this forward and be a leader that I know that I can be. And he was like, yeah, not a problem, Marcus, we'll sort something out. And my inspector wouldn't allow me to go for my board. And he said, I don't think you're right. At the same time, professional standards turned around and said, you've got to stop your therapy. You're not allowed to do it. And I just said, it's not an option. I'm not going to stop helping people. This thing has changed my life. And my thing was to get this to help people in the front line, the NHS, the police, because they're not getting the help that they need. And I remember making the very difficult decision. I came home and spoke to Michelle, and she said, what is it you want to do? What's your purpose? What is it? Will doing RTT give you the same purpose? She said, maybe you've got to take the uniform off. So Michelle's my wife, by the way. Maybe you've got to take the uniform off. Maybe you've got to stand in your authentic self. And she just made redundant, by the way. So it was at a time when we're talking about lack, you know, we're talking about a time when had no money. And a lot of people say this, clients will come, I don't have the money. The time isn't right. But I've been doing a lot of work. I've been looking at Bob Proctor. I've been reading Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Amazing book, by the way, if anybody wants to sort of wonder how they can do things. And I'd started to look into a lot of law of attraction, The Secret, Lisa Nichols, Bob Proctor, as well as the stuff that Marissa was doing. And I'm presently working with a lady called Regan Hillier. And I started to look at all this and started to be attracted into my life all of this other stuff, which people would call woo-woo. Oh, that's just woo-woo. That's just this. That's just that. But I'd experienced it. And if I hadn't experienced it, I would probably be that cynical person that goes, what a load of rubbish. They're a little bit crazy. But it's not, you know. But then I started to look at Dr. Joe Dispenza, who's amazing. And I'm very much like the science behind this, but it's just quantum physics. It's just energy. We're all energy. And science proves that we're all vibrating. It's just how you take that word vibration. And the way that I say to my clients when they say, you know, how can you get from there, is imagine your life is on BBC One, but the life you want is on ITV. What would you do if you were watching the TV? You'd turn the channel over. You'd switch the channel. How does that signal get to you? It's a frequency. You change the frequency. When you change the frequency, you change the picture. Things start to come into your life. You know, get a new TV. And we'll do this. We change the frequency in our lives by buying, you know, a new TV, the latest 4K, 5K TV, so we can watch other people's lives. But we never turn our eyes inwards and start to look what is happening with our frequency inside our body. So, yeah. And then I started to work with the amazing Ben Calder. So I'm part of Integral Health in Shrewsbury. And I then started to look at integral practice and the fact that I'm not an integral practitioner. I only do RTT and coaching. But I know that all that is we have the paradigm, and all these tools are a different way of looking at our paradigm. So if you want to put a nail in the wall, you use a hammer. You don't use a saw. You know, and that's kind of what led me on the path that I'm on now. And I very much find that for me, I find rapid transformational therapy is the underpinning of the house of abundance. You know, you can go and do some yoga and it'll make you feel better. You can do some meditation, it'll make you feel better. But if you haven't broken away the feelings that you attach to the stories that you tell yourself every day and understand where they came from, you know, you're still running on Windows 95, but you want to run the latest apps. You want to run Adobe Photoshop. You need to upgrade your operating system. And that's what rapid transformational therapy is. It's about going and decoding, finding the bugs in your life. Where did they come from? Where are those stories that other people have passed on to you? And then reframing those. And I love the neuroplasticity of this, about how the brain is placid and how we can, you know, talk to our neurons, you know, and that all of those things are not just in your head, they're in your body. And I've talked a lot about the polyvagal theory, about how our nervous system works and linking that to how chakras work. So I love this. At the moment, I'm loving the investigation of going, right, that's holistic, sounds woo. Where's the science? And linking that together. So I'm really interested in that, taking the theory, but actually sometimes you can't work it out. And sometimes you just have to accept it is what it is. And it's just energy manipulation in different forms. So yeah, I went on for a bit there, but I love it. I love what I do now. It's great.
I know that because I've seen you talk to people in the past, and I've seen your energy, and I remember at one of the events in Oswestry, you were away out putting out your leaflets, putting out, really good vibes to everybody that came in your little bags and your badges, which I've still got on my fridge. I have it right in front of me. So I know you love, and I know you're very, yes, that's it, that's the one. I know that you've got this passion for what you do. So where do you do what you do? How do people get in contact with you? And you say it's an 8-week course, or what is it? How does it structured? How does people come to you, and how do you help them?
So RTT is a little bit different to most therapy because, again, a lot of therapy is about dealing with the incident, the trauma, the significant event that normally happens in people's lives, and RTT is different to that. So in one session, and no more than 3, we get to the bottom of things. But the way that I do things now is slightly different. So the actual process, you can go to my website, which is makeyourlifecount.co.uk. I've got a Facebook group as well, which I do loads of free training in, which is facebook.com/groups/finding your power. And anybody can come in there, ask me questions and engage. But what I do now is it's a 21-day program really, rather than a session. So we have it's around about 2-hour session where we go into hypnosis. It's super easy. It's not difficult. We then regress you to a scene, place, event, and time, which is all to do with why you feel the way you do. So it might be giving up smoking, it might be anxiety, it might be confidence. I specialize in PTSD, anxiety, and confidence because that's kind of where I came from. That's my own path. And then once we've done that, it's all about empowering the individual to understand where those thoughts and feelings came from. We break then the feeling away from the story. And then this is kind of the neuroplasticity, the transformation at the end is about, it's a completely personalized experience. And we do a recording then for you to listen to for 21 days. But I also do that with coaching now, because I often find that although people have that amazing feeling of empowerment, oh, I know who I am, I know why I feel like that, I can now stop drinking, I can now stop smoking, I can now stand up and be authentically me without feeling that people are criticizing me. But often the world doesn't change around you. And as you know, when we talk at law of attraction, we're still attracting things that were in our past. So it doesn't happen straight away. So during that 21 days, I often now do coaching. So I have my coaching area on Tribe, where I just allow people to just find then the other things. I start to introduce them then to new ways of thinking, whether it be a book, a YouTube video, maybe whether it's saying, do you know what, maybe you want to go and speak to this person. So I've had people that work with me that have then gone on to work with my coach, or I've introduced them. So as I say, Ben Calder, the amazing Ben Calder, he's doing a shadow workshop, and I did that, and I've introduced them to that. So I'm very much about not saying, oh, just come to me, you don't need to see anybody else. This is why I love it. I see it as the foundation. It's like the gateway at Rapid Transformational Therapy. It's the gateway to really finding that other part of the universe that people aren't aware of, And that's why I love it. And when people become enlightened and they become to have the inner power, the inner strength to go, oh, I'm going to try that. I'm going to understand that, because understanding is power, isn't it? And hypnosis is phenomenal power to be able to understand that our subconscious runs our lives 98% of the time, but we only ever deal with things in logic, So it's about emotion, it's about creativity, and it's about, why do I feel the way that I do, not why does my boss shout at me, oh, here's a strategy. I do the strategy afterwards, but it's about really engaging with people's heart and people's mind, and allowing them to go inside and reconnect with the inner child and upgrade that inner child so they can run all of the programs that they want to run in their life. And that's why I love it. It's so powerful.
And you're doing a lot of this online. I mean, obviously we can't have one-to-one consultations with people, but when you are able to have one-to-one consultations, whereabouts do you hold them?
So I do those at Integral Health in Shrewsbury, which is a great centre. There's lots of practitioners there. We're a great team. I mean, at the present moment, we're connecting online pretty much every week. So we're supporting each other through that, because it is difficult, for practitioners. We're all humans. And I think this is the thing, is that, a lot of therapists have got their own story, and that's what they're there to tell you. They've done it. And I think the biggest message that I would say to people is, don't wait until it's too late. Get yourself, even if it's not with me, I'd love you to come and work with me, but find somebody you're aligned with. Go out there, go to somewhere like the Centre of Integral Health, have a look at their website, have a look on my website, And what I always say to people is don't go with your head, go with your heart. How do you feel about that? How do you feel? Really, if you feel kind of, oh no, that's not for me, ask yourself, well, why do I feel that way? What is it that's kind of disturbing me? What is it that I don't like? You know, because I've met some amazing people, you know, that don't do rapid transformational therapy, and I've tried different therapies, and I'm really open to that. You know, I'm working with someone in Spain at the moment with psychokinesthesiology, you know, and I've done access bars, you know, and I've tried different things because, as I say, it's all the same stuff. You're just looking at the paradigm slightly different. So it's whatever tool you need in your life. So go and have a 30-minute massage if you've never had one. Go and try a 5-minute meditation if you've never done it. And that will start you on your journey to abundance without a shadow of a doubt. You know, you don't have to jump in with both feet.
Wow. Fabulous journey you've been on, and great work that you're doing as well down at the Centre for Integral Health in Shrewsbury. Is there any other locations that you work from, or is that something that you're going to be looking at after lockdown's finished?
I actually, I'm looking at various different places just before lockdown happened. I'm quite flexible. I'll be honest, I probably do a lot of my stuff online. So I work with people in LA, in New York, South Africa, France. And I'll tell you the reason why. A lot of people think, oh, Zoom, it's not going to work on Zoom. It's not going to, but actually it works really well. And I find that when clients are at home, they're a lot more relaxed. So one of the things that I often do with Zoom, if people aren't sort of tech savvy, I'll jump on a call with them and I'll take them through the first 10 minutes of what a session would look like. Because I'm really about empowering my clients. I want them by the end of that 21 days to have, I don't want them to come back to me for the same problem. That's kind of my ego coming out. But I didn't want to be in therapy for days, months, weeks, years. And that's why I went to RTT. I often find it's therapy for people who don't do therapy. You know, if you've been going for CBT sessions for 2 years and it's not worked, and I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with CBT, and actually you don't want to be in there, or you're listening to this, I really need to speak to somebody, but do you know what? I can't take time off work. If people find out that I'm feeling like this, you know, 2 hours. I mean, I had a lady recently who came to me first. She was just found out she was pregnant. She was taking cannabis and she was smoking. And obviously she was at a wit's end. She literally couldn't cope without a cigarette. She couldn't cope without a joint. She would freak out. When we did the session, she'd just actually been for a scan and she must have woken up about 10, well, not woken up, but come out of hypnosis about 10 times. And she's like, oh, it's not going to work. And she was getting panicky and we just dealt with it. And 2 hours later, smoke free. And she's actually on my YouTube channel and on my website, Steph, and she talks about it. And she says, I didn't believe it was possible. But when she found out the reason why she smokes cannabis, why she smokes, why she didn't feel good enough, all of a sudden she could make that choice. She stepped into a fear. She took action. She chose to say, it's my life of my baby or it's living in the past. She trusted in the process. She trusted in herself. And now she stepped into her amazing, brilliant future. And that's why I call it the facts of abundance. You know, you're going to push through the fear. Don't wonder how it's going to work out. Just make that first step, take that action and trust the person. And again, when you're speaking to a therapist, if you're speaking to a coach, you know, get them on a phone and go, how do I feel about this person? Does this person have my back? Do I feel like I can trust this person? Don't go off logic. Certainly don't go off money. Don't go, first question, most people go, oh, how much does it cost? Forget the cost. Even if you've got no money, forget it. Just have that conversation, because a good therapist will A, not take you on if they don't think you're the right person, and B, they'll give you those stepping stones. I give loads of freebies away. There's loads of stuff that I do for free. If that person's not ready, they haven't got the money, I'll go, okay, go and do this. I'll give you a copy of my book. I'll give you this meditation. Start your journey. Start to do that, but you've got to do it. You've got to be the one to trust yourself. You've got to take action. You've got to trust yourself, and you've got to step forward, and you can do it. I did it. Don't wait until you do what I did and be on the verge of suicide and broken, because that's what most of us do. We wait until we're broken.
Yeah. That's the big problem in a Western society, is that you're not supposed to have these sorts of feelings. You know, you've got to stay in your box, and men in particular I think, have a really rough deal because they're not supposed to cry or show feelings or be sensitive, or I think it's absolutely crackers that we expect that of anybody, and more so of men, because I think that causes so much frustration. I've known so many people in the past who have stuck at jobs or stuck in relationships or whatever it is, simply because fear stopped them from moving on. And then by the time they realised that change was possible, it was far too late. And they were either too old, as such, they couldn't change jobs, they'd retired or whatever. I think that's really sad, that you go through life and not living the life that you want. I think that's horrendous.
There's an amazing book by Vishen Lakhani called The Code of the Extraordinary Mind. And this is his words, not mine. And what he says is that we conform to the rules, and they're the bullshit rules. They're the rules of the culturescape. So we look to our politicians, we look to everybody else, we look outwardly to blame, we look outwardly to get the answers, when actually the answers that we need are already inside us. We just need to go inside, and we need to take, we are a direct mirror. Anything that's coming into your life, that's what you're putting out. And I didn't believe that at first. And it's interesting, I've got this at the back here, this quote from Brené Brown that says, vulnerability sounds like truth and feels like courage. Truth and courage aren't always comfortable, but they're never weakness. And when I explained that to people, I had a guy who I worked with who was in the military at Turnhill, and he was having a real tough time. And I said, think about you're pinned down in Afghanistan, bullets whizzing over your head, and you've got to run 100 meters to get out of there. You are probably going to be going, I'm going to die. Things are going to happen. You can stay where you are. You can stay exactly where you are, but you're going to die anyway. Okay. The fact is, we're all going to die. And you take that chance. You take that chance on faith. You put faith over fear. You take a deep breath and you run like mad towards your salvation. And people do that in their lives all the time, but they don't realize they do it. And actually, it's okay. I don't like the phrase, it's okay not to be okay. It's okay not to be okay, but go and do something about it. Feel vulnerable. Say, this isn't right, but I'm going to go and find my truth. I'm going to go and find who I am. I'm going to step into my own power, and you can do it. Everybody can do it. And sometimes you just need some help to do it. And that's what we're here to do. That's what, people like myself are out there. You don't have to go to the doctor. You don't have to take pills, injections. If that's what you need at the time, great. But ask yourself, what's my purpose? Why am I here? There's a 1 billion to 1 chance that when the earth was formed, that you were going to be here, right now on this planet. And ask yourself, is eating nachos, watching Netflix and moaning about your life what your purpose is about? So go and find your purpose. Yeah.
Well, Marcus, thank you so much. Thank you for spending this time with me and telling us about your life and being honest about it, and I'm so pleased that you found RTT. I really am, because you brought it into Shropshire as well, where it wasn't known as far as I'm aware. And I mean, I don't say I know everything, because that's anything further from the truth. But, it's a joy to watch you in action when I see your videos on Facebook and see you interact with people at events. I think it's, I see you now sort of getting, as you say, you're learning access bars, you've been doing all the other sorts of therapies and things like that. And you're gathering all of this information and no doubt, I'm sure, we'll be seeing a lot more bigger things from you in the future. I think you're going to develop, your own sort of.
And do you know what, June? I think that's the thing.
In the future, I can see that happening.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I now know to be true is this, and I'll say this to people now, is that child who, had didn't have a bad upbringing, was basically told, oh, well, this is who you are. This is who we are as a tribe, because we want to make connection. We want to avoid rejection. And our subconscious mind is pretty much there to keep us alive, and that's it. And when we step out of that tribe, we are going to go through a bit of pain, because people are going to say, oh, don't leave us. You'll get eaten by a saber-toothed tiger. But actually, we're not cavemen and women anymore. You can step into your future, and you only need to look at some of the greatest people in the world, and when I say greatest people, I mean great inventors, people who stand out. Many of them didn't have a formal education. Many of them were laughed at. Many of them were told, you'll never do this. But you know what? If you really believe in yourself and you get that help from people, and you create that mastermind around you, you can have an impact on the world, And I truly believe that. Not that I'm after fame, fortune, or anything like that, but I'm going to live my purpose from now on. I'm going to live my truth, and I'm going to step into who I am. And if people don't like it, if people don't like you shining, they can go and buy a pair of shades. It's as simple as that,
Yes. But that's the thing, isn't it? And it's getting to know people and understanding them as well, and seeing where they're coming from. And as you say, it's working with other people, and it's not thinking that what you do is the be all end all and things like that. If I have people come to me for things, I will happily recommend other people, simply because I want what's best for the person who's come to me.
Absolutely.
What's best for me. That's of no interest. It's somebody trusts me enough to come, then I should honour that by then recommending the best person for them. So you're doing most of your stuff online. You're going to look at other areas and where to work. You're currently in Shrewsbury. What else do you? And you've wrote your book now. So remind me the name of the book again.
Well, it's called Drowning in Anxiety, and I'll tell you the reason for the title. I was actually going to call it The Power of Not Proving. That was actually what the original title. So it's an ebook. It's not a massive book. It's a real easy read, and it really just looks at this part of my life and the tools. And I talk about other things, not just about RTT. I touch on RTT, but all the things that got me to think the way that I am and where I am. But the significant scene, so when I said with RTT, we go back to scenes, my significant scene, which was my breakthrough moment, was, and this is how subtle it can be. My brother and my dad, I must have been about 6 or 7, were on a beach, don't know where it was. And my brother threw a frisbee into the water, into the sea, and there was waves. And I went into the water, no issues, I could swim. There wasn't a problem, I wasn't scared. And as I turned around, a wave came over me. And it pulled me under. It must have been seconds. My brother and my dad pulled me out and started laughing. Is that appropriate behavior? It's blokes having a laugh. It's something you'd have. But I didn't know at the time what got installed in me was, you nearly died. You nearly drowned. You're going to prove that you're big enough. You're going to prove to everyone that you don't need their help. Nobody is ever going to mock you. Nobody is ever going to do that again. And that was installed as a bug, as a program. And there are other things that I've done through my journey using RTT in my own self-development. I still use it myself. And that's been a theme that's always come up. I've had past life stuff of drowning. Drowning has been a theme through the whole of mine, and it's both been metaphorical and actual. So that's why the book's called Drowning Anxiety. And when I work with clients, they often say, yeah, it's like I can't breathe. I'm just coming up for air, and then I sink back down, and I'm being consumed. So that was the reason why the book was called Drowning in Anxiety, because I just thought that's so apt, because it is a truth of where that feeling started in this life. But equally, it is the feeling that most people have, this drowning, this descending of, I can't get out, I can't breathe, and I'm just about surviving, and I'm certainly not thriving. But I'm a pretty good swimmer now. I'm not drowning now.
I'm glad to hear it. Well, thank you so much. You said you got 17. You were
yes.
saying. So how many kids do you have?
So I've got Harry, who's 17, and interestingly, I'm trying to not teach these my children this, but I'm trying to make sure now that they conform. Yes, but they understand that they are powerful and they can do what they want to do. So yeah, he wants to join the Royal Marines. He's very much kind of service. His uncle's in the Royal Marines as well. So he's looking at that. And then I've got my son Alex, who's 11, who was actually my first RTT client. He was my first client because he plays rugby. So I'm a coach at Shrewsbury Rugby Club as well. So Alex plays rugby, and we used RTT to help him with his tackling and with his confidence with RTT. So it can be used with sport as well. And yeah, and he wants to be an astronaut.
Wow, fantastic.
And I've said to him, do you know what, buddy? If you want to be an astronaut, yeah, you're going to have to put the work in. You're going to have to do it. But why is it you want to be an astronaut? What is it that you want to do that? Absolutely. If that's what you want to do, nothing's going to stop you doing that. But look at why you want to do it. What is it? So I've not now gone, oh, no, that's not available to you. Yeah. You never went to university and you're going to need to be this. Who knows where we'll be? You know, we've just had the SpaceX flight. Anything is possible.
Oh, absolutely. And you know, that's the thing, isn't it? So many families hold a dream for a child and want them to, you know, follow in the party line or follow, you know, the family line and do what the uncles did, the granddad, what, it doesn't matter. But so many of them try to keep them in this box and don't allow them to flourish and do what they want to do. They try and hold on to them, you know. I think that's really sad that
but it's tribal, it's the familiar. The mind loves the familiar, and a lot of this is subconscious. And when we attack parents, I wrote a blog called How Our Parents Ruin Our Dreams. And it's true in many ways, but it's not done purposefully. What we got to remember is the subconscious is running, and it's all about fear. It's all about, if you don't create a safe environment in the mind as well as in, you know, and again, it's about going inside and going, why do I feel like this? My son, I don't want him to join the Marines. I don't want him to go and get killed. Okay. But we've had that conversation. And I've gone, what am I? I'm projecting my fears onto you. Well done, you. You're making your decision. It's not my life. It's not my decision. And I will honor that. And I'll be so proud of you. And if it doesn't work out, then it's not meant to be, you know, but I can do that now because I know it's not my journey. It's his journey. Yeah. And that doesn't mean, you know,
to respect that they're on their own journeys. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And we should do that with everybody. Just understand that that's that person's life. We can all be a little bit kinder to people and ask, when that person's shouting at me, when that boss is having a go at you, oh, they don't feel good enough. They don't feel happy enough. Maybe ask them and just say, is everything okay? I'm really concerned about you. And watch their body language. Just because they're your boss doesn't mean that they're not hurting. They're not going through their own problems, you know?
Yeah. No, I totally get that. Yeah.
You know? Yeah. So,
well, again, thank you. Absolutely brilliant.
Talk for hours.
I know, I'm the same. In fact, having these sessions is probably about the quietest I've ever been in conversations. Because I hardly say a word and I'm like, you know, surprised at myself. But it is fascinating, and thank you again as well, being honest about your breakdown and that, because it's not easy to say why you do things that you do in your life. So thank you. And
if I can end, I think the one thing I'd like to say is, because I talked about my why. Yeah. So can I finish with my why? So my why is really simple. I really truly believe that everybody should have a fulfilled and happy life. And once you remove those destructive feelings that you attach to the stories that you tell yourself every day, you really can move forward and have the most abundant life. And don't be scared to go and ask for help, because there is out there. There are people that truly care, and you can have it all. You just have to have the courage to step into your own power and go and find it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, June.
Thank you.